Rain poured over the runway like spilled glass as Maya Johnson, clutching her infant to her chest, finally reached gate A-17. Her eyes were heavy, her voice hoarse from pleading with the ticket agent. But when the scanner beeped green, she smiled. At last, the flight to New York, first class thanks to her husband's surprise anniversary gift. She had no idea that gift would turn into a test of her soul. As she stepped onto the luxury jet, whispers spread. Designer suits, glittering jewelry, and judgmental eyes turned toward her worn baby carrier. One passenger muttered, "They're letting anyone in here these days." Maya smiled softly as if she didn't hear. Her baby stirred. The air felt colder than the AC. It was the chill of quiet contempt. Then came the voice, sharp, controlled, and dripping with false courtesy. "Ma'am," said Clara Weston, the head flight attendant. "You must be lost. Coach is that way." Maya looked up calmly. "No, this is my seat, 3A. Clara's smile froze. The silence in the cabin was heavy. A man in seat 4A lowered his newspaper and watched everything unfold. Maya tried to place her diaper bag in the overhead compartment, but Clara stepped in. "I'll handle that," she said curtly, then placed the bag several rows back, out of reach. A businessman across the aisle chuckled. "Maybe she got a buddy pass." Maya sat down quietly, rocking her baby. The hum of engines masked the pounding of her heart. She wasn't used to confrontation, but this humiliation burned deeper than words. The seatbelt light flicked on. Clara leaned close, lowering her voice. "I'll ask again, ma'am. Are you sure this is your seat?" Maya handed her the boarding pass. "First class. 3A. Clara snatched it, glanced at it, and muttered under her breath, "Unbelievable." Maya's baby began to cry softly. Clara rolled her eyes. "Please control it. You're disturbing our premium passengers." The word had echoed like a slap. The man in 4A slowly set down his coffee and pressed the service button. The light above Maya's seat blinked. Clara turned sharply, irritated. "Yes, sir." The man in 4A looked calm, his voice even. "Is there a problem with this passenger?" Clara hesitated. "She's a mother," he interrupted. "I saw her ticket." "She's fine." Clara stiffened. "Of course, sir." "My apologies." But the apology wasn't for Maya. It was for him. As she turned, her jaw clenched. The cabin returned to its false calm, but Maya's hands trembled. Her baby cried louder. Clara came back, snatched the blanket Maya was trying to use, and snapped, "You're making a scene. If you can't keep control of your child, I'll have to move you to an empty row." Maya whispered, "Please, just let me slap." Clara's hand smacked the blanket, and Maya's hand beneath it. The sound sliced through the cabin like thunder. Every passenger froze, except the man in 4A, who slowly stood up. The engines roared beneath the jet, but all eyes turned toward the man. He was tall, sharply dressed, his face unreadable. "Excuse me," he said softly, stepping forward. "Did you just put your hands on that woman?" Clara blinked, realizing too late that he wasn't just another passenger. The authority in his tone made her hesitate. "Sir, she was being disruptive. By sitting in her seat?" His voice was calm but lethal. Maya looked down, trying to hold back tears. Her baby whimpered. Clara flushed red, realizing the other attendants were watching. "Sir, please take your seat." "I'm handling this." The man smiled faintly. "No, you're not." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a sleek black badge card, not a police badge, but something more powerful. The airline logo shimmered in silver letters. Johnson Air. A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. "Johnson Air?" a passenger whispered. "Isn't that—" Clara's confidence shattered. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The man looked directly at her. "Yes, David Johnson." He turned to Maya, his eyes softening. "My wife." Clara staggered backward, realizing she had just struck the CEO's wife. Her world shrank to silence. Every whisper, every judgment now cutting her instead. David's tone stayed calm. "Captain," he said into the intercom. "Ground the plane." The pilot's stunned voice crackled back. "Sir." "We're on the runway." "Then stop it right there," David replied. "We're not flying until this cabin remembers what humanity means." Engines powered down. Silence fell heavy as gravity. Passengers exchanged nervous glances. Maya stared at her husband, proud, shaken, but safe. Through the cabin window, a reporter's camera lens flashes. The entire incident just went viral. The private jet stopped inches before takeoff, wheels grinding against the wet tarmac. Inside, the silence was louder than the engines. Clara's hands shook as David Johnson stood in the aisle. His voice carried quiet authority, the kind that didn't need to shout. "I want every passenger to stay seated," he said. "We'll be deboarding for review." Maya clutched her baby, whispering, "David, please don't." He turned to her softly. "You were humiliated in front of everyone. This ends now," Clara tried to speak. "Sir, I didn't know." David looked at her. No anger, just deep disappointment. "That's the problem, Clara. You didn't know. You didn't see her." Through the window, flashing red lights appeared. Airport security, press vans, and curious onlookers gathering like moths to the flame. A camera flash captures Maya's tearful face, and the photo hits social media before they even step off the plane. By the time they reached the terminal, the world already knew. Flight attendant slaps black woman holding baby, CEO's wife. The video, shaky but powerful, had millions of views within hours. David's phone buzzed endlessly. Board members, lawyers, news anchors. Clara, escorted by airport security, shouted, "I didn't mean it! I didn't know who she was!" Reporters swarmed around Maya, their microphones like weapons. "Mrs. Johnson, how do you feel? Will your husband fire her? Do you plan to sue?" Maya shielded her baby, whispering, "No more questions." David stepped between them like a wall. "No comment," he said, but his expression spoke volumes. That night, a million strangers debated their pain. Some defended Clara, some condemned her, but no one knew the full truth. A leaked audio clip surfaces online, Clara calling Maya a nobody who doesn't belong in first class. The next morning, David stood before the airline's board of directors. A dozen powerful men and women, each worried about the company's image. Chairman Ellis cleared his throat. "David, this is messy. The media's tearing us apart. Maybe it's best to suspend her quietly?" "Quietly?" David repeated. "You think prejudice should be handled quietly?" A hush fell. One executive whispered, "She made a mistake." David's tone hardened. "A mistake is spilling coffee." "This was contempt," the board murmured. One woman said, "If you fire her publicly, it'll look like revenge." David leaned forward. "It's not revenge. It's a reminder. No one is too high in the sky to forget humanity." At the same moment, on a different floor, Clara sat in HR, pale, trembling, staring at her reflection. Her phone buzzed. Another message, another death threat. A legal advisor rushes into the boardroom. "David, sir, Clara just went live on social media." Every news network cut to the same live feed. Clara sat in her apartment, tear-streaked, her uniform wrinkled, voice shaking. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she said. "I just thought she didn't belong there." I was tired, stressed. "I made a mistake. Please don't ruin my life." Millions watched in silence. Some sympathized. Others raged. Maya sat on her couch, baby asleep, watching the broadcast with an unreadable expression. David entered, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to see this," she whispered. "No, the world needs to." As the feed ended, Clara's final words echoed. "I lost my job, my name, everything, all because I didn't recognize who she was." Maya mutters under her breath. "No, Clara, it's because you didn't recognize what I am. Human." A week later, David called an emergency press conference. Cameras flashed like lightning as he took the podium. "This isn't about revenge," he began. "It's about accountability. My wife was treated like less than human, and if that can happen to her, it can happen to anyone." Reporters leaned forward. "So, Mr. Johnson, what's your decision?" David took a deep breath. "Clara Weston's employment with Johnson Air is terminated effective immediately." A murmur spread through the crowd. He continued, voice steady. "And starting today, every member of this airline, from pilots to executives, will undergo empathy and inclusion training. Outside the building, Clara watched the conference on her phone, tears falling silently. For the first time, she didn't feel anger, only shame. That night, Maya receives a message request from Clara. The world moved on, but not Clara. She sat in her small apartment, curtains drawn, the once proud flight uniform crumpled on the floor beside her. Her phone buzzed every few seconds. Hate messages, threats, and reminders of her shame. Monster. Racist. Never fly again. She turned off the phone and stared at her reflection in the dark TV screen. How did I become this person? On the other side of town, Maya was rocking her baby to sleep when she saw a headline. Clara Weston vanishes after firing. Friends fear for her safety. Maya's chest tightened. She remembered Clara's trembling hands, her voice shaking. She wasn't excusing her, but something in Maya's heart whispered, no one deserves to be destroyed, only changed. Maya scrolls through her messages and then sees a new one from Clara. I need to talk to you. Please. The message glowed on Maya's phone screen for hours. She didn't answer. Could she? David noticed the worry in her eyes. Maya, he said softly, you don't owe her anything. She looked at him, voice steady. But maybe the world does, he sighed. You're too kind for your own good. Maya replied, kindness is the only thing that ever changes anything. That night, unable to sleep, she opened the message. Clara, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need to say I'm sorry. To you, to your baby, to myself. Maya stared at it for a long time before typing 3 words. Meet me tomorrow. The next morning, David wakes up to find Maya's side of the bed empty, and a note on the nightstand. The cafe was quiet, tucked away near the airport where they first met. Rain tapped on the windows as Maya entered, holding her umbrella and her heart steady. Clara sat in the corner, thinner, paler, eyes red from sleepless nights. She looked up and froze. You came, Maya nodded. You asked, silence. The kind that held years of hurt in one breath. I ruined your life, Clara whispered. Maya shook her head gently. No, you just showed the world what needs to change. Clara broke down. I thought I was doing my job. I thought people like you didn't belong there. Maya leaned forward, voice calm but heavy with truth. That's the thing, Clara. People like me built the world you fly over. Clara's tears fell. For the first time, she didn't argue. She listened. A man in a hoodie at the counter secretly films the entire conversation. Within hours, the video hit social media again. But this time, it wasn't a fight. It was forgiveness. The caption read, "The woman who was slapped met her attacker and offered grace." Millions watched Maya take Clara's trembling hands across the cafe table. You don't need to be perfect, Maya said in the clip. You just need to see. The comments flooded in. She's an angel. This is what real strength looks like. Maybe humanity still has a chance. David watched the video go viral from his office, his eyes softening. For the first time since that flight, he smiled. But as Maya scrolled through the comments, one message stood out, anonymous, threatening. Forgive her all you want. The world won't. Later that night, Clara's apartment door creaks open. Someone's been inside. Clara's heart raced as she stepped into her dark apartment. The lights flickered. Her framed airline photo lay shattered on the floor. A single note was taped to her door. You made us look bad. You'll regret it. Tears welled up. The world that once adored her now wanted her gone. She dialed the only person she could think of, Maya. Her voice cracked. They're threatening me. Without hesitation, Maya replied, I'm coming. Minutes later, headlights flashed outside Clara's building. Maya appeared at the door, holding her child close. Clara sobbed. Why are you helping me after everything I did to you? Maya looked her in the eyes. Because if I don't, I become the very thing I hate. They stood there in silence as police sirens echoed in the distance. David arrives and sees his wife holding the woman who humiliated her. David froze at the doorway, watching in disbelief. His wife, the woman who had been publicly humiliated, was now comforting the same person who caused her pain, Maya. His voice cracked. "What are you doing?" She turned toward him, calm but resolute. "Saving a soul." Clara was shaking, her hands buried in her lap. "I never asked for this." Maya replied softly, "You didn't need to." Humanity doesn't need permission. For a long, trembling moment, David said nothing. Then he sighed and sat beside them both. The world thinks forgiveness is weakness. But right now, this is the strongest thing I've ever seen. Outside, a small crowd had gathered as police officers arrived to take Clara's statement. Cameras flashed again. A new headline formed. But this time, it was different. The CEO's wife stands beside the woman who hurt her. The airline board calls an emergency meeting. This time, they want Maya there. The next morning, the conference room was packed. Reporters outside, executives inside, all waiting to see what Maya Johnson would say. She entered with quiet grace, her baby in one arm, notes in the other. Clara waited in the hallway, listening from afar. Chairman Ellis cleared his throat. "Mrs. Johnson." "We didn't expect you," Maya smiled faintly. "That's the problem. People like me are never expected, only judged when we arrive." She placed her notes down. "You asked what to do next? Teach compassion, not policy. Racism isn't in the manuals. It's in the moments people choose silence." Her words hung heavy. David sat proud beside her, saying nothing, because she didn't need anyone to speak for her anymore. One board member asked carefully, "And what of Ms. Weston?" Maya looked through the glass door, straight at Clara. "She'll help me fix what's broken." The board murmurs in shock. David stands, announcing a new project. David stepped forward, his tone sharp but inspired. "Effective immediately, we're launching the Unity Project. Training, education, and inclusion at every level. And Maya will lead it," reporters scribbled. Cameras flashed. The airline world was about to change. A journalist shouted, "Is Clara Weston involved?" David turned to Maya, letting her answer. "Yes," she said. "If someone who fell can stand again, they deserve to help others stand too." Later that day, in a press conference, Maya and Clara appeared side by side for the first time. The room was silent as Clara spoke into the microphone. "I used to think I was above others. Now I know I was beneath understanding." The crowd erupted in applause. A reporter yells out, "Will you fly together again?" Weeks later, the first Unity flight was scheduled, Flight UJ-01, Los Angeles to New York. Every ticket sold out in hours. Passengers arrived early, whispering, recording, hoping to witness history. The cabin door opened, and there she was, Clara in a new uniform, greeting each guest with humility and warmth. Then came Maya, boarding with her baby, now smiling. The world watched live as the two women met again in the aisle where it all began. No hostility, no fear, just two hearts that had walked through fire and found grace. Clara whispered, "Welcome aboard, Mrs. Johnson." Maya smiled. "It's Maya." Applause filled the cabin. The engines roared to life. Mid-flight, the captain's voice crackled over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement." The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the captain continued. "Today marks the first Unity flight, proof that humanity can fly higher than hate." Passengers clapped, some wiping tears. Cameras captured every second. Maya looked out the window, sunlight spilling across her baby's face. Clara stood at the front of the cabin, tears shimmering as she smiled at Maya. The captain concluded, "And in honor of this flight, and the courage of two extraordinary women, Johnson Air will dedicate our new fleet to equality and compassion." Everyone rose in applause. The entire plane, rich, poor, black, white, united in one moment of shared humanity. Maya leaned over to Clara and whispered, "See? You're not falling anymore. You're flying." Clara nodded, smiling through tears. "Thanks to you." A mysterious man in seat 23B watches them, smirking, and makes a call. "She's back in the air. Proceed as planned." As passengers cheered, a man in a dark suit leaned back, phone pressed to his ear. "She's back in the air," he whispered. "And she's more powerful than before." On the other end, silence. Then a voice said, "Good. Let's meet." The man slipped a small envelope into his briefcase, stamped with the logo of a rival airline. Meanwhile, Maya's baby giggled, oblivious to the storm quietly forming outside the celebration. When the flight landed, reporters swarmed Maya and Clara. Cameras flashed. The Unity flight was global news, a symbol of hope. But in the shadows, forces threatened to twist that hope into scandal. An anonymous email surfaces, claiming the Unity project is a PR stunt, and Maya's leadership was bought. Within hours, news outlets exploded with headlines, "Unity or hypocrisy." CEO's wife used forgiveness as cover-up, sources claim. Maya's phone buzzed non-stop. David rushed into their home office. "This is sabotage," he said, furious. "Someone's framing you." Maya looked calm, tired but composed. "Then let truth defend itself." "We don't fight hate with rage, David." But when she saw Clara's name trending too, fake forgiveness, she knew the storm had room for two victims. Clara appeared at Maya's doorstep, shaking. "They're saying I'm your puppet, that I did all this for fame." Maya hugged her. "Then we'll show them the truth. Together." A mysterious recording arrives in Maya's inbox, a familiar voice saying, "You should have stayed off the plane." David traced the email to a rival airline executive, someone who had lost a massive contract to Johnson Air after the Unity announcement. The man behind it all, Harold Vaughn, the one in seat 23B. They met in a tense confrontation at a televised industry summit. Cameras rolled as Maya calmly approached him. "You tried to use hate to win profit," she said evenly. "But hate doesn't sell forever," Vaughn sneered. "And forgiveness does?" Maya smiled faintly. "Every day. It's the only currency that never loses value." With that, she handed over evidence of his internal emails leaking false information. Within hours, Vaughn's company shares plummeted. The press turns again, this time calling Maya the woman who grounded greed. But she's already planning her next move. Months later, Maya and Clara stood side by side again, not as victim and offender, but as partners. They had opened the Unity Foundation, dedicated to training airline staff around the world in empathy, conflict resolution, and racial awareness. Children, families, and professionals came to hear their story. Clara now shared her past openly, saying, "I was blind, but she didn't punish me. She gave me sight." Maya added, "Forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It transforms it." David watched proudly from the crowd as their daughter, now walking, babbling, tugged at her mother's dress. The audience erupted into applause. They weren't clapping for power. They were clapping for humanity. A letter arrives at the foundation from the flight attendant academy that once rejected Clara. The letter read, "Dear Ms. Weston and Mrs. Johnson, we are honored to announce that our next graduating class will be named the Unity Crew. Thank you for teaching us that true flight begins in the heart." Tears filled Clara's eyes. "They named it after us?" Maya smiled, holding her baby. "After what we all became." Outside, a brand-new Johnson Air jet soared across the sky, painted with a dove and the words, "We rise together." As Maya watched it disappear into the clouds, she whispered, "Maybe this was never about planes. Maybe it was about people learning how to fly again." The camera panned up toward the sun, a final shot of light, hope and grace filling the sky, from humiliation to forgiveness, from pain to purpose. The cycle of hate finally broke, replaced by something eternal, empathy that takes flight.